Shit. I feel like I'm treading on my own soul. My headphones only working on the left side, but I try to live the right life. My eyes wide and I strive to stop my demons ripping from the inside.
Okay, well, I can't seem to locate our headphones. For any of you who know Chris, he tends to, he's a little flighty, tends to, I don't know, like misplace stuff or whatever. So it's hard telling where our headphones are, so I'm gonna have to listen to this with no headphones and then just mute it in the background, whatever works. So, but hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Rockin' Boat Reactions. We're gonna get started on Ren Chapter 7. We're gonna get started right now. Chapter 7, starting now. 3, 2, go.
Before he even had the test results, the doctor in Brussels glanced up from the form he'd asked me to fill out, and he said, "You have Lyme disease. We can run the tests, but I'm certain of it." I'd heard of Lyme in passing during my hours trawling the internet, but I'd never spent long diving into it. It was an extremely rare disease in the UK that you can get from tick bites, so it never really came across my radar. I sat there, puzzled for a moment. I said, can I get better? He said that many people go on to recover. Some don't. Right. I wanted to ask him so many questions, but my mind at that moment was totally blank. The test results eventually came back, sure enough, positive for Lyme, and the co-infection Bartonella, along with many other biomarkers which suggested autoimmunity and immune dysfunction. My whole life, I'd been waiting for this moment, to have something printed on a piece of paper that showed that I wasn't actually fucking crazy, that I could shove in the faces of anyone who'd made me feel like a hypochondriac or like a head case. But when the moment finally came, I felt numb. It was hard to rejoice. I had the lingering PTSD from the psychotic meltdown the year before, which made it pretty hard to break into the realms of happiness. Instead, I did what I always do. I got home, and I took to the internet, and I researched the best ways to escape. The summer that I got sick, I spent 2 weeks camping in a small festival in Dorset. One night, me and friends decided to climb a nearby hill to build a bonfire in the woods. On the way there, the fields were full of long grass and deer. 3 people, all my age, who all attended that festival came down with ME or fibromyalgia-like symptoms over the course of the next year. One was a friend of the family who was shut in a dark room for years because the light would be too intense for him. Before that festival, he was bursting with life, a successful capoeira dancer, reduced to a zombie. Lyme disease seemed to be as much of a medical labyrinth as ME was. On one side, there was a whole host of specialists who believed Lyme bacteria becomes chronic, evades the immune system response, can sometimes evade testing, and leads to debilitating symptoms unless treated with a long course of antibiotics. On the other side were doctors who claimed that Lyme can't persist. It's easily treatable with a 2-week course of doxycycline, and further symptoms following that must be due to an autoimmune response triggered by the Lyme, or perhaps an unrelated, undiscovered cause. I educated myself as best as I could on all theories, trawling through research papers on PubMed, conversing people in support groups, often contacting leading Lyme scientists via email or phone to ask them questions. Lyme disease is caused by Borrelia, a spirochete bacteria that causes symptoms like extreme fatigue, confusion, joint pain, heart problems, digestive issues, anxiety, depression, and in extreme cases, hallucinations. So everything was adding up. I fell down internet rabbit holes of learning how Borrelia produces outer membrane vesicles, which contain outer surface proteins which can modulate your entire immune response, essentially dampening it for its own survival. It was a truly insidious pathogen, a smart one out of a twisted horror sci-fi. There would be online groups claiming it was created in a lab in Plum Island off America and weaponized. Due to the widespread suffering it seemed to cause, and given how hard it was to treat, it was easy to see how people gravitated towards these sorts of superstitions and speculations. The main thing that made my head swim was the sheer number of treatment options, in part a byproduct of the cognitive dissonance in the medical industry at the time. There were countless antibiotic protocols, herbal protocols, immune system modulating protocols, wackier ones where people would be stinging themselves with bees or swallowing certain helminth parasites to modulate their immune systems. It was a wild west, and I wasn't so naive to be unaware that there were a lot of quacks in that space, selling people snake oil, financially taking advantage of desperation. Like a lot of the medical industry, I despise people and companies who see opportunity to profit from other people's misery. If you're watching this video and you're one of those people, I would highly consider switching your role in the world and being on the right side. One common factor a lot of these protocols seem to share was you would certainly get a lot worse before you got any better. There was something called the Jarisch-Herxheimer reaction. As you kill off the pathogens in your system, they release biotoxins in your body, which are eventually cleared out by your kidneys and liver. These can cause systemic inflammation, additional fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, pain, flu-like feelings. I was no stranger to these things already, but when they got even worse, it was a mental battle. I sought out as many success stories as I could, and I looked for common threads in the ones of the people who made a full recovery. It seemed like long courses of antibiotics were working for some people, but to do it safely I needed to be in the care of a specialist. The NHS were fucking useless. After multiple appointments, one with an infectious disease specialist, they told me the most they could give me was a couple-week course of doxycycline. I knew that probably wouldn't be enough. They told me chronic Lyme wasn't something that they recognised. I presented them with printouts of much of the research I'd gathered online for the most recent studies, which they dismissed. One of them told me I seemed obsessed, and they asked me if I thought about getting a hobby. I fantasised about dragging him by his tie across his desk and pressing a stapler into his skull. Then I politely got up and left. Doxycycline would lead to improvements for a short time.
Well, thankfully, he suppressed that urge to climb over the guy's desk and press a stapler against his head. Otherwise, we probably would be hearing from Ren in prison. But so far, all of that adds up. All of that equates. The pinpointing when a tick bite occurred, the fact that there were a couple other people along with him who had really bad reactions and illness courses after having been at that festival and likely having been bitten by a tick. And the thing is with Lyme is that yes, it's been a slow road to get full understanding of what chronic Lyme disease can entail, and it's taken a lot of work from the Lyme Disease Awareness Society, or I can't think of their name right off the top of my head actually, but they have put in a lot of time, work, and effort to bringing more awareness to chronic Lyme because it is a real thing. And typically speaking, I mean, you need to be on at least 8 weeks of antibiotics a lot of times if you have gone untreated for a long period of time. It needs 4 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks of antibiotics of the doxycycline, and 2 weeks is just not going to cut it. The damage that gets done by that bacteria, because as he explained, that particular bacteria it has a innate ability built into its genome to be able to hide from your immune system and wreak havoc in your entire body, all of your systems, your skin, your neurological system, the cardiovascular system, pulmonary, all of it. It has the ability to hide and wreak havoc. And that takes a long time to be able to recover from. Basically, it takes a long time to get that out of your system and then to try to reverse any effects of that if it can be reversible. And the point that he brought up about that get into a rabbit hole and then you see all of these different things that people are suggesting, or even some people who are trying to make money off of like selling you the venom from bees so that you sting yourself, you know, however many times over whatever course of time and buy it for this amount of money. And there's no scientific proof that that is beneficial and can actually ultimately be very, very harmful and can cause anaphylactic shock and death. So there's some things that are worth, you know, give it a shot and see if it helps. But then there's other things that are just dangerous. And like he said, the people who are making a living off of people like himself who are just really searching for an answer, trying to find a fix for themselves just to be normal again, shame on you. Shame on you for trying to monetize someone else's misery off of something that's unproven and potentially dangerous. And like he said, you need to rethink your life goal. Like, what are you doing in your life? Maybe you need to rethink that. Anyway, going back to chapter 6, where he was talking about that if he would have followed the doctor's suggestions, and he probably would have ended up on all kinds of psychiatric meds and probably ultimately in a mental institution because of the psychological effects that the long-term untreated Lyme disease had on him. And this goes back to, if you go by all of the things that the I don't want to say uneducated, the non-medical people who have researched the heck out of homeopathic remedies, ultimately those things can do damage just like unnecessary medications can do damage, and can lead to things that are just as dangerous as what if you're following the wrong medical advice from a medical doctor. If you're following the wrong advice from someone who's not a licensed physician, or from someone who doesn't have the education, the formal education, then that's just as dangerous. Anyway, starting back at 5 minutes and 24 seconds. That's my rant, and moving on, going back to the chapter. Here we go.
Frame, and then my symptoms would come creeping back. I tried many antibiotic and herbal approaches to treat the Lyme without much luck. I tried things like Rife treatment, which is essentially running an electromagnetic pulse through your body in hopes it will kill the bacteria. I was desperate. It seemed that America took Lyme disease far more seriously than the UK, which made sense as it was far more prominent there. I settled on a doctor called Dr. Gemsack over in Washington, and when I could, I would busk or I'd sell music online to raise money. My girlfriend at the time also ran a fundraiser, and my mum said that she'd also help contribute towards flights. It's not easy being sick and broke, but somehow we made it work. A week before I was due to fly out, something happened which changed my whole life. I've always been a believer in the good that you're putting out in the world coming back to you. Luck, therefore, is more of a karmic consequence. When I was making video blogs, I wasn't doing it to build a following or for any sort of social merit or personal gain. I was doing it because I thought I was going to die. I was doing it because I wanted to feel like I'd left some sort of positive mark on the world, like I'd helped. I remember waking up one morning and going through the comment section of the latest video I'd posted, only to find a message from a British doctor who is running a clinic over in Germany in Los Angeles. He is the third and final angel of this story. He was reaching out to offer to help, and he didn't want anything in return. We exchanged messages and ended up jumping on a video call together. The angel explained that he sympathised with my story. His son was a musician, and at his clinic he'd seen firsthand the countless times the destruction that Lyme disease was causing. He explained his clinic was involved in cutting-edge stem cell procedures and seeing promising results for various autoimmune and Lyme patients. The cost of the procedure was upwards of $25,000, something that I could never afford. But he said that every year he personally selected patients to attend his clinic for free. He would offer me the treatment free of charge. All he wanted me to do was document my experience. It made sense to me that if Borrelia was able to modulate the immune system for its own survival, that an intervention that focused on immunological homeostasis would help. The clinic also offered antibacterial IVs targeting the Lyme and various other treatments intended to build the body back up after years of chronic health complications. I was kind of in shock. When a stranger reaches out and offers something so generous, it's natural to doubt his intentions, but something told me to trust this kind offer. I really had nothing to lose, and as morbid as it sounded, my willingness to die made it easy to throw myself into a more experimental procedure. There was also some security in the fact that he wanted me to document my experience and share it with the world. At
8:02. So not only throwing yourself into the experiment, but and willing to sacrifice yourself, but it's more like I've done everything else under the sun that I can think of. What else? I mean, what harm is this going to do for me to try this thing? But it always makes me think of, like, for instance, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and I keep getting Isaiah Pacheco Facebook friend requests. It's like, yeah, okay, like Isaiah Pacheco from the Kansas City Chiefs is gonna send me a friend request. Not a chance in hell. So I realize that that's, you know, a fake person, or just like any of the Renegades, you're probably not going to be getting a friend request from Ren. You know that that's a spammer. So this is, I guess, kind of he had to have had this in his mind, like, is this legit? I mean, is this guy for real? But at least that's someone that you can research, and someone that you, because it's a medical doctor, and so there should be information on the internet, and then you should be able to, he did a FaceTime call, so he should be able to place the information on the internet with the face from the FaceTime call, so those things should match up, so he could at least feel a little bit better that he wasn't going over to Los Angeles to, like, I don't know, be human trafficked or something. I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
With the world, if it had been more sinister, surely he wouldn't want that sort of exposure. I decided I'd still go to the initial consultation with Dr. Jemsek, as I'd raised the money, but I would catch a flight to LA once it was done. Money was still an issue. The entire treatment length was about 6 weeks, and back then I could have never afforded the accommodation for that long. I decided to hop on Facebook, and I found a Lyme support group based in LA. There, I found people going through the treatment at the clinic who were happy to put me up in their guest rooms. Despite all our faults, human beings' ability to empathize, lift up strangers, and collectively solve problems purely because it's the right thing to do is such a beautiful characteristic to carry. I sincerely hope that we can find ways to hold on to our own empathy and humanity as we step into the future. I believe these traits will save us as a species. Survival of the fittest is a myth in a society where we have all our basic needs met. It becomes survival of those willing to cooperate. The time came, and I flew out to America with Momoko, keeping me company and keeping an eye out in case my health crashed. I went to the initial consultation in Washington, D.C. They recommended that I get on a minimum of a year-long course of various antibiotics and supplements, some to be rotated. I saw this as my fallback plan if the stem cells didn't work. We then headed to LA. It was summertime, so it was boiling. The clinic was based in Beverly Hills. The juxtaposition of spending most of my life in waiting rooms that were falling apart, feeling like a defective product on a conveyor belt that's being rushed along only to be dismissed, to then go into being in what felt like a 5-star health spa where there seemed to be a genuine care and interest for my well-being, was quite odd. I was greeted enthusiastically by the doctor. He seemed a lot younger than his age. When I mentioned this, he laughed and he said it was the stem cells. As we spoke, I could see his childlike enthusiasm for what they were doing at the clinic. Stem cells were very in vogue at the time. There was also much territory to explore, and the potential of what they could offer harder to treat diseases was incredibly exciting and promising. It was hard not to feel some of that contagious excitement leaking from the doctor. He explained that because I've been sick and misdiagnosed for so long, it wasn't going to be easy. There was no magic fix. At times I might feel like giving up, but I should trust the process. So I did. When we first arrived, I was staying on the floor of a young couple's apartment. They were just starting treatment at the clinic. Fontaine was a songwriter and he was an actor. One night he asked me if I liked bikes, and then he took me out on the back of his Harley Davidson and drove at high speed through the hills surrounding LA. It was interesting talking to Fontaine about her experience. I'd found people I could relate to online, but very rarely did I meet people in person whose experience had mirrored my own. She'd also been through the ringer of misdiagnoses, medical dismissal, left to suffer, trying desperately to claw back her own life. I started to realise this problem wasn't localised to the UK. It was global. So many people were going missing and screaming into a void. The first week at the clinic was aimed at building my body back up. I would sit for hours while various vitamins and nutrients were dripped into my body to address any deficiencies that may have occurred from years of being sick. They also offered talk therapy, lymphatic drainage massage, ways to calm your nervous system that would aid healing. I was still having to pinch myself that this was all free. I felt guilty for the people who had to pay. It wasn't easy. Occasionally I'd have an immune reaction to one of the IV drips. I didn't know at the time, but I had mast cell activation syndrome, which meant my body would become highly inflamed in response to many food, vitamins, even things like perfumes or scents from everyday cleaning products could set it off. A year later, while in the German clinic, I would be minutes away from nearly dying after going into anaphylactic shock during an IV drip. A nurse luckily caught me in the nick of time and injected me with an EpiPen. I spent a night in the emergency ward with Germans who couldn't speak a word of English, who put me on an electrolyte drip that made me feel even worse. During the second week in LA, I moved places to stay with another couple. The husband had been a prop and set designer for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They were extremely generous with their time and space and became almost surrogate parents to me and Momoko. There is an unusual companionship you feel with someone who has faced similar levels of suffering as yourself, like an unspoken bridge of understanding. At the time, I was having difficulties with my girlfriend. I wanted her to come with me to LA, as this felt like a pretty pivotal moment in my life. It was a time where I really just wanted to feel safe, but she couldn't take the time off work. I think I felt a little bit funny about the fact Momoko had made the time and sacrificed her own work and she hadn't. She was being distant with me whenever we spoke on the phone, which frustrated me more and more. We ended up arguing a fair bit. I think this is the beginning of seeds that would soon grow into finding extremely difficult to be in relationships in general. I usually feel pretty unlovable, extremely isolated, very antisocial. I felt alienated, often bitter that most people go through their lives not knowing what it's like to hurt every day, that they didn't appreciate the freedom their bodies allowed them as they should. To be alive and to not hurt is a blessing. To be alive and not hurt is all I want.
So, boy, what a statement that just made. And this is the crutch of why I want to get going on weekly live streams on the YouTube channel. Every Sunday morning, June 22nd would be the first one, and I want to do them at 9 a.m. Central Time in the United States. So I want that to be, my plan will be that will be a standing from every Sunday, 9 a.m. Central US time from here on out. So if you are someone who has dealt with chronic illness, had a difficult time getting diagnosed, felt unheard, felt unseen, felt abandoned, felt needlessly suffered, if you are a caregiver for someone who has had to fight their way to wellness, or to just not be, writhing in pain every day, or someone who is currently taking care of someone who is still undiagnosed and still suffering. Even people who are family members of those who have a chronic condition, and you may be a family member who just doesn't understand it. I'm hoping that maybe I can help to bring that group of people together in a way we can have healthy conversations, we can have better understandings of each other, because coming from myself as having lupus and dealing with the complications of that, and I'm currently dealing with worsening complications of that, and Chris and I having to navigate what that looks like now for us, kind of clearing a new path for how we move forward with the new things that's happening. And also, having been an internal medicine doctor, I understand the medical side of it. And then Chris being obviously my primary caregiver on a day-to-day basis, he can be involved in some of these conversations as well, and or I can help to kind of bridge the gap between the person who is ill and the person who is the family member or the loved one who just doesn't understand why their loved one just can't get over it, or can't seem to find something that helps them. Maybe they've been on multiple medications and you just don't understand why they're not getting better. That's the purpose of my live stream. So I hope you spread the word and share the links that I provide, and be posting reminders. And like I said, it'll be starting every Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 22nd of June, and 9 a.m. Central. So we'll be talking about this very thing: why relationships fall apart, how you can keep relationships together, how to communicate effectively to maintain relationships, how to move forward in a productive and loving way with the challenges that you face. So anyway, just that little tidbit, and I'm gonna get started back right at 13 minutes. Here we
The day of the stem cell transplant finally arrived, and I was nervous, as you would be getting a giant fucking metal rod shoved into your skin. The doctors offered me an anti-anxiety med, and I was never one to turn down free drugs. With autologous stem cell transplant, they take cells from your own fat, centrifuge them, and then do some magic science shit and then feed them back to you in an IV. To acquire these cells, they have to do liposuction. The issue was I was already skinnier than a shadow on a cloudy day. They would usually take the fat from the stomach, but as I had virtually no body fat, they had to go in through the back near my coccyx. They spent about 20 minutes sawing away at your insides and separating your muscle from fat. Then they inject you with a liquid that breaks it down and they suck it back out, fresh for the stem cell harvest. There's a video of me drugged up and laughing as a needle as big as my forearm gets rammed into my back. I returned home pretty bruised up, but full of hope.
Like they're digging for gold, and so I'm pretty kind of bruised up. I've got these two little holes here where they took the stem cells out, and they put them back in my arm. You can't really see on this camera because the light's too much, but I've got more holes in my arm than a Scottish heroin addict.
I'd met people at the clinic who were further along the process than me, who were singing the praises of how much better they felt. For the first 3 months I didn't really notice much, but I was told it would take time. I was already doing somewhat better from the 6 weeks of IVs. It's an unusual psychological space to be teetering on the precipice of hope that your whole life could change. There's a certain tension and a certain excitement that comes with that. I was also having big problems with my girlfriend at the time. I'd found out some things that had really shaken my trust. In retrospect, I should have just walked away then and there, but I held on because part of me blamed myself. In my sickness, I held people at a distance, so I felt like I deserved negative things. We would fight a lot. The health problems added a whole new dimension to something that would be hard for any couple. I couldn't trust that she loved me as much as she said she did because of certain things that I found out. A few months after the transplant, me and her decided to get away from everything and stay with a mother on the south of Spain. One night, we were sat on the grass, looking up at the sky, being surrounded by avocado and lemon trees. It felt like we were in some sort of Eden-like paradise. She asked me to marry her. It was her way of proving that she loved me and would always love me. And I said yes, but I meant no. Even when we went to pick out rings, I just felt scared. I lost the ability to trust love. I don't fully blame her for that. She was an awesome person trying to navigate a complicated situation. I blame my sickness. My sickness was an inseparable from me, and so I blame myself. After about a month of being home, she sat down with me one day and told me she decided to move to Australia for a year. She told me it wouldn't change anything between us. I had my doubts. Despite the additional stress in my life, something amazing was happening. About 4 months after the stem cell transplant, I noticed the desire to leave the house. I noticed more colour in my skin. I joined a gym that was a 3-minute walk from my house. I started working out for the first time in years. Music started pouring back into my life. I was singing more. I was producing more. And this was all leading up to my favourite chapter so far.
Before we get started on the video, the music video there, this is again, me talking about me relating to his story. So if, you're someone who gets irritated by someone relating to Ren's situation, then fast forward. It's a very, very difficult thing to know that you are not the person that you once were. And in my particular case, I was an adult. I was 44 years old, 44, 45 years old when my health really took a nosedive, and it's been really, really difficult for me to understand how my husband can continue to, want to stay married to me whenever I can't do much of anything. I can't go kayaking with him. I can't go riding a motorcycle with him. I can't really go on walks, like certainly not out in nature and going and visiting places and doing things that people just kind of take for granted. I mean, I talked in another video about the reason that we do RVing is because it's hard for me to even ride in a vehicle for very long, and I have to sit back in a recliner or go lay down in bed when we travel, because just riding in a vehicle is too much for me sometimes. And so it's hard to believe that someone can continue to love you as much as they say that they do when you feel like you are insufficient for them to continue to love you. Does that make sense? Like, why? What do I do? I mean, I barely do the dishes. I barely cook. I mean, Chris does the laundry, or my mom will do her laundry or clean the floors, or, there's like, it's just, it really puts you in a position of looking at yourself, evaluating your situation and being like, well, what is there even to love, And so I completely understand where his insecurity came from, or that, he said yes to getting married, but he really said no. And he didn't understand. He felt very unlovable. He felt he felt like that he could not be in a relationship because of his own illness. And that's a very unhealthy way of thinking, but I don't know that there's many of us who do have chronic illness that probably don't think that way. I would think that probably most of us do have those kind of thoughts, just because I feel like that's probably normal and natural. But we also have to understand that we're more than just what we are capable of physically doing. We are thinkers, and we have a soul and a spirit, and we bring value to life. And that's a hard lesson that I had to learn a couple of times. Like my kids, when they need me, they know that they can text me and I'm right there. And if I wasn't around for them when they needed me, that would be devastating for them. So I know that I'm needed and that I am loved, and the same for Chris. I mean, Chris would be he would be lost without me. He wouldn't even know. He wouldn't know how to, I don't know. He wouldn't know how to do 9 things out of 10 that we do on a daily basis. Oh, crap. Anyway, seriously, he would be really a lost soul. So it's understandable for him to have those kind of feelings, and like, if she was gonna move away for a year and that it would be okay, the distance would be okay, and he had his doubts. I mean, sure, yeah, I would absolutely have my doubts. I mean, if I were in that position, I would be like, yeah, there's no way you're not going to meet somebody who's like normal and healthy and see what that kind of life is like and want to go to that. That's what how I would probably feel about it. And, it takes a lot to really understand that you are worthy of love. You are worth a lot more than what you realize you are worth to the people around you, because in yourself you feel worthless, but to the people around you and the people that love you, you're worth so much more than what they could ever even express, and what we would ever be able to fully grasp, just because of our own inner struggles with that topic. So a little bit of a rant there, sorry. And here is the video for the end of chapter 7.
Oh, that sounds wavy. Oh, shit.
This is one of my favorites. I love this. My favorite is the parking lot attendant, blind-eyed. But this looks like it might be just busking, which all of the busking I love. So I'm excited about this. All right, let's go.
No flame to spark my Nike's laced in dirt. Shit. I feel like I'm treading on my own soul. My headphones only working on the left side, but I try to live the right life. My eyes wide and I strive to stop my demons gripping from the inside. This road is dark and I can't find the batteries for my flashlight. I'm blind-eyed and I'm tired. Red, go. These drugs don't work. The pain, it takes control. Blood-stained shirt. I feel like I'm always being chased by the devil. I try to talk, but I can't seem to get my spoken words right. And I try to keep my stutter alive. And this life, it can be ish, right? Cut you like a flip knife, twist and make you sick, right? And I felt maybe I'll be better off alone. And so I redirect the calls from my phone. I learned so many lessons from depression, but in essence, I'm just wishing that these bad thoughts were gone. Sometimes I guess sometimes it's when it's like time is against me. In my mind I kind of mind, yet on my mind it tortures me. But I shine, cause when I shine it's like my shines, they set me free. And I rhyme, I shine so bright, these rhymes come out of me. Times I bleed, times I crawl, times I slip, times I fall. Times my back's up against the wall, so hard that the whole building could fall. Times I bruise, times I break, times I chew, times I fight, times I when the forward is to open and it's swallow me for goodness sake. I think I'm gonna break cause the ache and it's fake. I'm awake in the wall. My universe is the relate in the way. Wait at the world, don't wait. We make mistakes when it's all at stake. We eat our cake, sometimes no time for double taste. But that's just the way life goes sometimes. But I don't wanna end up in the gutter being bad with my trouble face down in the puddle where the sun don't shine. I'm coming on the back, on the track, and the top, and it's not enough peace. Looking at it when it's on the pain and I'm praying. Oh Lord, take this pain away. So that was a song that me and Ren wrote. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Ren Makes Music. That's R-E-N Makes Music. I am Sam Tompkins UK, that's Sam Tompkins UK. This next song is called Same Old Situation. We wrote this not so long ago. Ren makes music, that's it.
Love it. Alright guys, man, I love that song. Those two together are amazing, and boy, I'd sure like to see them do some more stuff together, but it's exciting to know what's coming up with Ren and Webby, and also Ren and Token. I'm excited to see what new things are going to come out. Looking for that every day. Soon, very soon. All right, guys. So here's our sign off, and stay tuned for chapter 8 in the very near future. Here's our sign off.
Whatever. Goodbye.
Have a great day.
I think we better just end this one.
Everybody, have a great day. Smile and
you know
make
what?
somebody else's day a little bit brighter.
Normally I'd say that, but if you're a Steeler,
If you're a Steeler, then F off.